In lesson 9, we are going to discuss the items editor rollout. So if you can open up lesson 9, you'll see that just to save time, I've set up a very basic forest pack. What I did is created the forest pack, generate. I've added the teapot box and pyramid. I have made it into a grid format, and then I just played around with the density. Now I have obviously attached the surface, which is the plane that we have over here. Now the items editor rollout is going to give us complete freedom to actually place items on a surface, off a surface, and basically anywhere that we want, which is really handy. So what I'm going to do is this plane over here, I'm actually going to remove it. So all we're left with is a forest pack with no surface, and it has these three items. I want you to go and find the items editor rollout, which is this guy right over there. Now you'll see that it is on generate, which is the standard default settings. We are going to change this to custom edit. So as I click on custom edit, this appears. It is going to tell you that the area and the distribution parameters will be disabled. Are you sure? We say yes. Now there's a couple of things that we can do here. Number one is we need to make sure that we click on this little tree icon right over here. This is going to allow us to add in the actual models freely. So activating that, all these menus appear. Let's start with the first one, which is model. The drop down box will show us all the items that we have, if I show you, in the geometry rollout. So whatever's in the geometry rollout will now appear here. We can click the add button, and now have a look. I can add anywhere that I want, which is really handy. If I click the drop down box, I can now select the box, and I can obviously add the boxes. I can now add the pyramids and whatever other objects you have in there. If I deactivate the add button, I can actually select each item, move it, delete it. I can rotate, I can scale, which is again really awesome. So you've got a lot of customization that you can do here. The next one is the random. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these guys and just delete them. And if we go into random, it is going to pick a random model that we have that is in our drop down box. So let's click the add button, and it is randomly going to pick one of the three items. And as you can see, it's just going randomly. Next we have is the sequence button, which means it is going to go in sequence. So the sequence will be teapot, box, and pyramid. So we're going to go teapot, box, pyramid, and then as we click, it obviously just keeps going on and on and on. Let's deactivate the add button. Now what I want to do is I want to show you what we can do with the properties selection tab. I'm going to select this teapot. If I click the drop down box and change it to a box, it will change my selection for me. Now this is really handy because we can do a couple of things here. I can select multiple items there, go to the drop down box and choose which one I want. In this instance, let's make them all boxes. So that'll speed up the process of constantly changing whatever you want. Next we have sub item. So let's deactivate this. Let's go into camera and choose camera 002. Now I've got an item over here that I've already created. It is a group item. So let's click group, click open, and have a look. I've split the object into 1, 2, and 3 parts. So there's 3 parts to this model, which I have grouped together, and I've called it flower. Close that. Forest pack, let's go into icon mode, click and drag. Let's go to the modify panel. Now if you remember, under geometry, we need to click this button right over there, and that is the way we add an actual group. So let's click on the flower, add it, then go into the items editor, activate, say yes, and we've just learned that I can click on the model tab, click on add, and I can actually place a flower wherever I want. Now if we deactivate add, we can go into the properties layout, which we've already learned. So let's activate the flower, and what I can do now is as follows. If we click on the first object, you'll see that it has a sub item of 2, this one has a 0, and this one has a 1. So all these items actually have sub items now. So what that means is if I, for example, select the entire flower, I can change the sub item to any of the 3 that I want. Meaning if we add, let's say, a couple of flowers just like that, what I could potentially do here is I could actually select the entire set of objects just like this and actually remove the sub items and only have the flowers or the stem or the leaves, whichever one you want. Next, what we have is the user ID. So let's remove all of these. Let's add a new flower there. The user ID will allow you to actually go into post-production. So underneath the rendering tab, whichever rendering engine you are using, in my case being Corona, I've got CMasking ID. If we launch up a render and activate a interactive render, we can see that the user ID right over there with the flower is actually going to render a different ID material for you. So for example, if I select the flowers over here and I can change the user ID, it will actually change the user ID colors for you, and this is for post-production purposes. Okay, let's close that, deactivate this. Let's go into Camera 001, click the OK button. Next is the select by type. If I select the teapot, I can now say select by type, and that'll just mean that it will select all of the same types for me, which is pretty awesome, because if we have a really large space and we've got thousands of, let's say, lilies or sunflowers, doing this method will obviously select all of them for us. The randomize option will randomize the selection that we have, and of course it will pick one of the three here. So for example, I've got all the teapots. If I click randomize, it will warn me all items will be randomized. Are you sure? Say yes, and it will randomize them to obviously whatever's in the list. Multiple selections or individual can work here. Next is the reset size. So I am going to manipulate a couple of these items in terms of their size. Select all of them, and now we have the option of reset size. So let's click this. All sizes will be reset to the default values. Are you sure? Say yes, and then it will. Notice the one that rotated did not change, so this is only for the sizing. And the next one we have is reseed. Now, one thing we haven't gone over is the transform tab, which we will cover a little later on. For now, a very brief understanding is that the transform tab is going to allow us to randomize every single item in our forest pack scattering object. What that means is with the translation, we can move the items between a min and a max. We can rotate it between a min and max and a scale. So don't stress, we will cover this. For now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to enable all of these, and you can see what's happened. It's completely randomized all the objects from their scale, their rotation, and their translation, which is basically their movement. Now, with all of those activated, what I can do is, if you didn't like what we've done here, I can select all these items, and if I click on the reseed, so let's click it. Do you like to reseed the selected items? I say yes, and what it's done is it's taken all of these three values, the translation, rotation, and scale, and it's given them a new seed. So the reseed now has basically taken all of these values and has randomized them even further within the min and max values. Next is store random. Whatever adjustments you have done in the transform tab, if I click on store random, it is going to bake those in, meaning these will be unticked and these will then be the default position. Finally, we have detach and attach. So what I can do here is I can select any items that I want. If I say detach selection, what's happened is that it's actually detached these four items here and made a brand new forest pack. I'm going to do it to the top ones again. Click on the detach. Now, if we go into the lister over here, which again we will cover later on, you'll see that I now have three forest pack items. So I have detached a couple of the items and created its very own forest pack. What we can do at the same menu right over here is attach items. So these are the ones that are selected, the ones in the middle. I can click on single and attach individual forest pack items. Alternatively, if we just press Ctrl Z and press multiple, I can now select more than one and then click attach, and then they all become one forest pack item again. And that is it. Items editor. I'll catch you in the next one.